Welcome back to the Countdown. I'm your Countdown host, MJ Book, back for another episode here in the world of the Countdown. I hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody's doing safe. Like I always trying to say with every episode, I hope everybody's taking care of themselves, getting those vaccines, getting your boosters, take care of themselves, taking care of their loved ones, and taking care of the stranger that they just may bump into. Let's get rid of this damn COVID so we can get back to life as normal. Unfortunately, this is probably going to be normal for many, many years. We're going to have COVID shots, going to be like the flu shot. You're going to get one probably every year, maybe even every month the way this is going. But hopefully we can get this thing just eradicated. But got a countdown here for you. But I'm not doing this one on my own, as you can probably see over there. I'm joined with, of course, a frequent guest here on the show. He is, of course, one of the co-hosts and was recently the host of Third Generation Wrestling. And he did a great job at it when we did our Survivor Series post show. He is, of course, the ambassador. Rob, how's it going?
It's going good, man. It's Thursday night. Got some football on. I got one of my players on my fantasy team playing. Man, this show has been in the works for a while. I'm glad we're finally getting it done. The delay has been on my part. I apologize for that.
Don't worry.
But we are getting it done. And I noticed we have a theme going on tonight. You have a Roddy Piper background, and I'm wearing the hot rod hat that I got from you, actually, on the show tonight. So both playing true to the great Roddy Piper, greatest heel ever. Definitely.
Gonna start seeing this background a little more just because I love that because I love the picture. It is an amazing picture that I just lucked to finding. Speaking of Piper, I did, while I was working today, you guys did an episode, you kind of mentioned it before we started recording, of your favorite heels. You know I got to rebuttal and talk about that a little bit. I have to.
Well, jump in.
Just a little bit, I've got to. First off, Eric, with all due respect, your list became counterfeit as soon as Piper wasn't on it. I'm sorry. That is counterfeit. You cannot do that list without Rowdy Piper. It's just counterfeit. Well, automatically. I get what he's doing, but come on. It is. I don't care if you have him last. You put him as an honorable mention. Something. It's Piper. That's all I'll say on Piper.
Okay, here's why I give Eric a pass on that. You have to remember, we're a little bit older than Eric. Eric's in his 30s. And by the time he started watching WWE, Piper was done. I mean, he had been retired for years. So Eric never saw Piper. So, I give him a pass only because you can't really, I only went back to wrestlers as far as I could remember, right? From my childhood. I can't pick wrestlers that I didn't see. And so that's why I'm giving him a pass on that.
He saw Piper in WCW.
Oh, come on, man. Those weren't his best days.
He saw him in WCW. And actually, those were his WCW early years were actually very good. They were very good. He got main events, which was something he sure didn't get in WWF anymore. So you could argue those WCW years might have been actually better. He got a title shot.
Well, I didn't see those. I'm judging on what I saw in WWF, main eventing WrestleMania 1, the obviously being the big villainous foil for Hogan, who was so over at the time. Look, man, I mentioned the WrestleMania 2 with Mr. T, wearing blackface and whipping Mr.
That's
T
the other
across
thing.
The back.
That was Bad News Brown.
Oh, was it Bad News Brown?
That's Bad News Brown.
Oh, okay. I thought
he didn't do that that was Bad News Brown because he had long hair. I remember that he had long hair. And he was with Mean Gene, and he started it like this, and then he turned. That was at WrestleMania. That was Bad News.
No, but I could have swore that on Saturday night's main event, leading up, he was having a boxing match, or maybe it was a wrestling match. I think it was a boxing match with Mr. T. But I could have swore that he did beat Mr. T across the back as well on an episode of Saturday night's main event. We should look that up.
I did. I tried to look it up and see if there was any time he did that around Mr. T. Nothing ever came up that he did that. Even when he talks about it, it's just Bad News Brown that he did that with. That's the one that.
But I am almost certain that happened.
He might have done one little skit, but wherever it is, it's just not findable. But you can find the Bad News Brown one everywhere on YouTube.
Okay.
So if he did it, he only did it once, and I guess it's just disappeared. One more thing there, or two more things. Double J, really?
Well,
Jeff Jarrett.
Once again,
really?
Everybody, look, There was some on my list. I wondered what people would think. I had Rick Rude pretty high on my list, and most people probably
That doesn't that. Oh, I
yeah,
knew you would.
yeah, but a lot of people probably wouldn't put him that high. I mean, man, that's the thing about these lists. That's what's good about your list. What we do, I like it that we all have differing opinions. We come from different eras. There's no right or wrong. It's one person's opinion versus another, and it makes for great debate. And I think those make good shows.
And Kurt Angle, he was shocked. As soon as he said Kurt, and he was like, I'm shocked you haven't done it. And then he said Kurt. I sat here and immediately said, he's not going to have Kurt on there because me and him loved Kurt from the jump. So there is no way he's going to have Kurt on there. You were right that I did, but I knew you wouldn't. You never hated him. So
yeah,
that didn't shock me one bit. I'd have been more shocked had you had him.
Yeah, I mentioned the WrestleMania 21. If you
we always talk about that.
Yeah,
I did
talked about that. Yeah, and yeah, I always liked Kurt. The same reason why I didn't have The Rock on my list. I just always
that didn't shock me either because you loved him.
Yeah, for me, a heel you shouldn't like a heel. Now everybody, now look, for you it's different. A guy can be, the more despicable a guy is, the more you like a guy. That's you. But that's for me, if I like a heel, I figure, well, man, I should hate a heel. So yeah, like I said, that's what's great about these different opinions, different criteria for what you think is great or what you think is bad. But all of the differing opinions, like I said, make for great shows.
And I was a little shocked there was no Charlotte on there.
As far as, well, too soon.
I thought you might have at least maybe met her as an honorable mention.
Yeah, too soon. Because look, actually, I actually think Bayley has been a better heel. Yeah. Than
I had her number 2.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You had her that high. See, for me, too soon. I've watched too much wrestling and it's just too soon. Maybe if we do this 5 years from now, do the same category, maybe Charlotte and or Bayley make it in. Maybe MJF makes it in. But it's too soon to them for me.
Okay. Well, me and Warren are going to be doing, we don't know when yet because we're still working on it. We're going to do faces just like we did heels.
You and Marlo?
We're going to do faces just like we did with heels. We don't have it time set yet, but because we're both still working on it. That'll be tougher. Heels was easy. Faces are going to be a little rougher.
I think faces would be tougher. And the interesting thing is I'm curious to see how many wrestlers you're going to have that appear on both lists.
It's going to be rough because you had Bobby and I'm like, I can't do that. He's a manager because I do have a list for managers. So I'm like, I can't put him here, which is why I didn't have Vince because I'm like, to me, Vince ain't a wrestler. This is for wrestlers. He's his own list. He's just his own list. So
our list was wrestling heels, and I wanted to get Bobby on there because I don't know when I'll get a chance.
I get it,
Bobby. Yeah. So look, man. Obviously, he was a great heel. He wasn't a wrestler, but we didn't qualify it by saying wrestlers. We just said wrestling heels, and so I wanted to make sure I got the great Bobby Heenan on there.
That's why I'm doing managers, so I can talk about Bobby. I'm going to do managers. I can't wait to do that one. But we're here to do a countdown of stop wrestling related, even though that's up there. And we're here to do a countdown of our favorite guilty pleasures in the movie department. Now, what I mean by that is movies, you know they're kind of shit. Actually, there's no kind of. You just know they're shit. But for some odd reason, this movie agrees with you. You love it. It makes you laugh. You enjoy it, which is, in the end of the day, that's all that matters. And these are our guilty pleasures. And how difficult of a list was this for you?
It wasn't that difficult. The only difficulty was some of these movies I haven't seen in a while. Most of them I own, some of them I don't. But I tell you what, doing this list made me realize that, wow, there's some movies I don't have in my collection I need to get. But not very hard at all.
This was generally easy for me. It was just that last one when to get to 10 because I had 11. And that last one is always the difficult one for me I have to get rid of one of them. And it got really, really rough. And I had to get down to a hair to finally get rid of one, but finally did it. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Well, I didn't know if we were doing honorable mentions. I do have 5 I can mention real quickly.
Go ahead.
All right. First honorable mention is one, Eddie Murphy, obviously a comedic genius, but in his later years, he's made some horrible movie. Oh, yeah. And this is one of those that is shitty. It's called Norbit. It's from 2007.
Oh, God.
Yes. But I tell you what, Norbit it's typical Eddie Murphy. toilet humor, Eddie wearing different disguises, playing different characters. But this movie makes me laugh. I know it's bad, and I know the humor is juvenile and sometimes just plain crude, but it makes me laugh. And I own it. I do watch it on occasion. And I know it's garbage, but I love it. So that is my first honorable mention. I'm a sucker for disaster movies. No matter how improbable, how implausible, if I see things blowing up, or if I see buildings being torn down, if I see big ass tidal waves, I'm in there. So there are two movies, both I own on Blu-ray, both I watch regularly, even though the plot is terrible, even though the acting is terrible, even though the directing is terrible. 2012 and The Day After Tomorrow. Both kind of.
I like both of those.
Okay. All right. Well, most people don't. Most people think
I own them.
I own both too. Like I said, I'm a sucker for these disaster movies where the world is ending and all of this crazy shit's happening. I love it. Then my last two I'm going to mention kind of go together. As a former stoner, former teacher fan, I love stoner flicks because, first of all, I automatically know if it's a stoner flick, there's not going to be much of a plot, but there will be some comedy, probably kind of juvenile. So these two movies. First, I don't know if you've ever seen How High with Method Man and Redman.
Heard of it, never saw it.
Okay, well, basically, they play two guys who have a deceased friend. They decide to use their friend's ashes as fertilizer to grow some weed. They smoke the weed, and the weed gives them the ability to see this guy, his ghost. They're the only two who can see him. And this guy...
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, this guy gives them the answers. They're high school kids, if I didn't mention that. He gives them the answers to their THCs, which we would call SATs, but in this movie they're called THCs.
I wonder why.
Yeah, they get a perfect score, which allows them to go to this upscale college. Well, you can just imagine it's kind of a fish out of water things. Both of these weed heads at this upscale college where they don't fit in, all kinds of hilarity happens. It is an absolutely terrible piece of crap, but I enjoy watching it. It makes me laugh every time. And then kind of along the same lines, and I think this is one I'm curious to see if it's on your list. Don't tell me whether it is or not until we get there, but Half Baked with Dave Chappelle, actually co-written by Dave Chappelle, another stoner flick. What happens is Dave Chappelle's a janitor in this science lab. He comes across some fire weed. They smoke it. One of his friends goes out and on a munchie run, feeds this apparently a diabetic police horse, feeds him some junk food. The horse dies. The friend gets arrested, $1 million bond. So Dave Chappelle and all of the remaining stoneheads have to try to come up with $1 million to get this guy out of jail. That's basically what the story is about, the plot. And I use that word loosely when I talk about most of the clips we're going to talk about tonight. Yeah. But yeah, man, absolutely funny movie. Early Dave Chappelle, cameo by Snoop Dogg. So those are just some of my guilty pleasures on my honorable mention list, or dishonorable mention, depending on your perspective.
It's honorable. It's honorable.
Okay.
I'm just going to mention a couple, and progressively through, I might mention one or two others. Starship Troopers.
I own that one.
I love just the first one. They made a bunch of sequels afterward, which I've seen all of them. A couple of them aren't that bad, but it all is down to the original one. Love the original Starship Troopers. Inner Space, which is a Dennis Quaid and Martin Short and Meg Ryan movie. It is just pathetic. It's dumb. The science is illogical, but I love it. And I actually own this movie as well. I was shocked it was on DVD, but I bought it and I got it. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which is just utter nonsense. These people had to have been smoking dope when they did this movie, because it just makes no sense. People flying around with their heads flying around detached from their body. It is just weird. It is clearly a high trip. Jaws 3. It's a guilty pleasure. I know it's shit, but I love that movie, and it's all, and you know who it's about with that movie.
Oh yeah. Louis Gossett.
Louis Gossett stole it.
I actually enjoy Jaws 3 too. It didn't make my list. I remember when I first saw it, I was so disappointed because the original Jaws is one of my all-time favorite movies. But over the years, I have really grown to enjoy Jaws 3 more, and especially for the reason you just mentioned, the great Louis Gossett.
Lewis just stole that movie, and I liked it back then. I loved Dennis Quaid, so I was a sucker for Dennis Quaid movies. I'll name one more. You'll get a laugh at this, and it's kind of ironic me naming this one because it involves him.
Oh boy!
Hell Comes to Frogtown,
yeah.
which may be one of the worst movies ever made. I can't really recommend people to watch it, even though I would love to, because it is really, really bad. I can't even describe the plot of this movie because there is a plot, but it is risque. It's disturbing. It's Hell Comes to Frog Time. If you want to risk it, go ahead and watch it. But I do own it. And the reason I own it is because Rob bought it for me.
Hey, well, I know you're a Piper fan, and I knew that movie was bad when I bought it, but I just thought bad. You might enjoy it anyway. Yeah.
I already had seen it hundreds of times. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I just never thought it was on DVD because it's so bad. But that's the runners up, our honorable mentions. And without further ado,
and here we go.
Let's get started with the countdown. This is a 10-spot countdown. And of course, as always, the guest always starts it first. But real quick, before I do that, Michigan! I got to do it. Michigan beat Ohio State. Go Blue! Amazing Blue! Had to do that. Had to get that out. I'm still hyped from that win. Still hyped from that win. That was huge. Thank you. Thank you, Michigan. All right. Number 10. Go ahead, sir.
We're real quickly glad to see Michigan get over it. Now, unfortunately, it's the Big Ten title. Yeah, Michigan versus Iowa this Saturday. Man, I'm nervous because I don't know. But all right, to the countdown. My number 10, and this is going to be a familiar one for you. And look, I'm a sucker for this franchise. I've said it, and I know most people do not regard this one as very good. My number 10 guilty pleasure: Terminator: Rise of the Machines, the third in the series. Most people hate it. Most people hate pretty much everything after Terminator 2. I'm not in that camp. I enjoy a few of them. This one stars Nick Stahl as John Connor. I don't know why they couldn't get Edward Furlong, but he's not in it.
He read the script.
Well, I heard he had other issues, but this is actually from 2003, directed by John Mostow, who directed U-571. I don't know if people have seen that, but that's a good film. So I was kind of excited about it. Now, was it a bit of a letdown? Sure, but did I think it was that bad? No. Nick Stahl plays, obviously, John Connor. This takes place several years after Terminator 2. Sarah Connor has died, and John is just kind of disillusioned, hiding out from these machines he knows eventually are going to come to hunt him down. Well, of course one does, in the form of a very hot-looking Terminator, played by Kristanna Loken. And obviously, it's basically the same, okay? There's chases, there's shootouts, but I actually enjoyed this one. I enjoyed how the story played out. Claire Danes in this, she plays Kate Brewster, who will later eventually become the wife of John Connor. I'll watch anything Claire Danes is in. I love her. And I just liked how by the end of this movie, you get to see John Connor slowly accept the fact that he is going to be the leader of this revolution, even though he's been reluctant to it the whole movie. He finally just, you could see he just grows into that position, realizing this is his destiny. It's an inevitability. It's what's going to happen. That's how the movie ends. I thought it was actually well made. Most people hate it, but I enjoy it. So that's my number 10, Terminator: Rise Against the Machines.
Yeah, I do own it.
Yeah,
I do own it, but it was one of those movies I had broken my own rule of buying a movie before I'd seen it, because I hadn't seen it in theaters when I bought it. But I just figured it's Terminator. After T2, it's Terminator. And then I watched it. Well, that sucks. That movie sucked. That Terminator is bull. I was done with that movie when she got pulled over by the cop and she made her tits bigger. I'm like, okay, that's it. I've had it. This is bad. This is no way this is going to get good. I enjoyed The View, but that is so stupid. And the movie definitely didn't disappoint. It got dumber as it progressed. I own it. I've only watched it once.
Yeah, I could have, look, I didn't mind a female Terminator, but if they could have gotten someone like in the model of like the late great China, someone like that.
Something believable.
Yeah. But like no matter how badass she is, I just don't know if I'm going to be intimidated by Barbie. And that's kind of what she looked like. And that, to me, that was the worst part of the movie. But guilty pleasure, a movie I know is bad, but
yeah,
I enjoy
that's a guilty.
yeah,
That's a guilty pleasure. All right, my number 10. This is a bad movie. There is no doubts on this, but I own this on DVD. 1977's Kingdom of the Spiders. And if you know me, that gentleman right there should be pretty doggone familiar. It's the god himself, William Shatner. So obviously, I'm going to love it just because William Shatner is in it. This movie, though, spiders take over a small town. That's your plot right there. Spiders taking over a town, and you have William Shatner with a group of people kind of bunkered in, trying to survive this scene. Now, trying to survive this invasion of spiders that takes over a little town. And it's the acting. You can guess what the acting is. It stars William Shatner. I love him, but I know he's a shit actor, but I love that about him. I love it. It cracks me up. It's what to me makes him a great actor. He knows he's shit and he's going to embrace it and make it his own. And he does a great job at it. So I fucking love it. There are some moments that are really cheesy when he gets covered with spiders, his acting in it. You can imagine how bad it is. And trust me, as bad as you're thinking it is, it's even worse. But it's a guilty pleasure. I can watch this movie over and over again and have absolutely no problems. For another show over on you guys's for 3GW, I had this in the back of my mind for kind of a horror type of movie. When we did that, I was actually thinking Kingdom of the Spiders, but I'm like, no, I can't do that. Is bad. So as bad as you may not have liked House of a Thousand Corpses, that was a possibility too, was Kingdom of the Spiders. So be glad I didn't pick this instead of House of a Thousand Corpses, because you really would have been ragging on me. But directed by John Buddy Cardos. There's nobody else in this movie that anybody would know. William Shatner is the only noteworthy actor. So Kingdom of the Spiders, number 10.
It's interesting. I've actually seen that movie. However, as you said, the movie came out in 1977. I saw it on cable a year or so after it came out. So I would have been 12 or 13 years old. I actually enjoyed it at that age, but I have not revisited it since, but I will take your word for it. There's a lot of movies. There was one that came out around that same time, or maybe a couple of years before, called Empire of the Ants that I loved as a kid. I have seen that one as an adult, and that is absolutely bad. So
it's bad. It's bad.
I'm assuming Kingdom of the Spiders is similar. So yeah, I'll take you.
I think Kingdom of the Spiders is better than that. I think it's better.
All right.
But of course, he's in it. So of course I'm going to think it's better.
Gotcha. All right. Well, on to my number 9 is one I think most of our listeners will be familiar with. It's from the Star Wars franchise. It's from the second trilogy, which are actually episodes 1, 2, and 3. I really enjoy Attack of the Clones. I know most people think
really?
Yes. And I know most people think that is an absolute garbage movie, but I just really enjoy it. I don't have to say much about it because I believe most listeners have probably seen it. But what I like about it is even though Hayden Christensen is not the best actor, you kind of see him start to take those steps towards the dark side. Little by little, you kind of start to see him become Darth Vader. Look, the CGI, I didn't like the fact that George Lucas, who directed this in 2002, I didn't like the fact that almost the entire movie was computerized. They didn't use real sets. Everything was computerized. I thought it gave it kind of a generic video game look to it, but there were some good sequences in there, some good lightsaber fights. I was entertained. And this one is a guilty pleasure for me because most people hate pretty much all of the movies in that original series. I enjoy this one. I also enjoy Revenge of the Sith. The reason why that's not on my list of guilty pleasures is because I really think that's a good movie. I don't feel guilty about liking that one because I think it's a solid movie. This one I know is garbage, but I like it anyway. Number 9, Star Wars, Attack of the Clones.
We've had this discussion, and I like Attack of the Clones. I don't think it's trash at all. Now, I do think Hayden Christensen's acting is trash, But there's a couple of moments he nailed it. Like after, okay, spoiler alert, whatever. When he killed all the Tuscans, he nailed that. He absolutely nailed that moment. Now, when he's speaking Shakespearean, when he's talking about love and all that, that was torture. Yeah. That was unmitigated torture. But I think that movie's damn good. Yeah. I wouldn't even call it a guilty pleasure because of what you just said about the third movie. I just actually think Attack of the Clones is good. Okay. Sure as hell better than fucking Phantom Menace.
That one is not going to make any list that we do unless we do biggest
worst movies. Well, we did it already. Worst movies.
For me, it would be biggest if we did movies that were the biggest disappointment.
I have that list. I'm working on it.
Yeah, that would be on my list.
I'm working on that list. It's I have literally like 50 lists I'm working on. It's ridiculous. Nice. But number 9. I'm wondering if you're going to remember this movie. It's not that it's real old. It's just that it's kind of obscure, but it definitely has a cast of people you would definitely recognize. It is, if I can get punched up here, there it goes. Ed TV with Matthew McConaughey, Jenna Elfman, Elizabeth Hurley, and I'm covering his face, Woody Harrelson. Now, I am not a Matthew McConaughey fan. I don't like the dude. Most of his movies I despise, but this was the first movie, and for a very long time, the only movie of his I could tolerate until he did Interstellar, which I think is one of the greatest movies ever made. That thing is just it's epic. Yeah. There's some lists I'm working on just so I can talk about Interstellar. But Ed TV, if you remember The Truman Show, this came out around The Truman Show. This is basically a cheaper version of The Truman Show, which I love The Truman Show, but I don't own it. I own Ed TV. So it's basically this video store clerk who agrees to be filmed by a camera crew for this television show. So it's very much like Truman Show, except, of course, he didn't know. This dude completely knows. And at first, everything is going good for him. But, of course, the fame and everything, it starts to mess things up. Jenna Elfman plays a girl that he loves. Woody Harrelson is his brother. Elizabeth Hurley is Elizabeth Hurley. You can guess who she is in this movie. She is a sex bot, and that's the way she should be, because she is singly one of the most sexiest women there has ever been on this planet. And that woman still looks like that. Yep. And she's like 50, 60 years old, which is ungodly, but she still looks like that. And it's not like she's had a lot of surgery. She's one of the few people who she's had some, I could tell, but not a lot. So for her, it's just the genes, good genes. But it's directed by Ron Howard. So some people would be shocked that Ron Howard directed this, but he totally did. This movie just entertains me. I mean, Matthew McConaughey kind of plays this country bumpkin a little bit in the respects, because that's what he is. He's a Texan. So he's really upping it up a little bit in this movie, and it just entertains me. It cracks me up. Ellen DeGeneres is also in this movie, by the way, as well. But this is, I think at this point, I don't think she had come out yet. Maybe she did. I don't know if it was around that time or not. I can't remember. I don't know if the Ellen show existed yet. I don't mean her daytime show. I mean her sitcom show. Yeah. I don't know if that existed yet. I think it might have. I just don't know if it was around that time yet. I don't know. But this was just a hysterical movie. It cracks me up. Like I said, I bought it. I know it's shit, but I bought this movie. It still cracks me up today, even though I know it's shit. Number 9, Ed TV.
I am familiar with that movie. I have not seen that or The Truman Show. That was with Jim Carrey, correct?
Yes, you've never seen The Truman Show?
No, I've never seen either one of those. It's funny how many movies that have gotten by me that I've always said, okay, I didn't see it at the time, but I'd like to go revisit it. And then time goes by and you just don't do it. And those are 2 films that I have not seen yet. Maybe I'll give them a look.
Obviously, I would recommend Ed TV just because I like it really much, but I would really recommend Truman Show. Jim Carrey, he proved he can act. He's not just some kind of goofball. And he would do it later on, of course, as well. But damn, I thought he should have gotten an Academy Award in that movie. Wow. I thought he was that good.
Well, you made me curious. I'll have to check one of these mini free channels that I have, see if I get lucky and find it. All right. So we're up to my number 8, right?
Yes, sir.
Boy, the higher we go, the shakier this is going to get. I'm curious to see if this is one you've seen. I know it's one you've heard about. My number 8 is from 2006, directed by David R. Ellis, and it is called, and the title alone should tell you, it's called Snakes on a Plane.
Oh, God.
Look, if ever, I didn't even have to know who was in the movie. When I hear snakes on a plane, I'm there. Now, it just so happens that this stars Samuel L. Jackson, one of my favorite actors.
Tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
Thank you. He plays Neville Flynn, who is protecting a witness to a murder, escorting him to a trial, obviously taking a plane. The murder suspect somehow arranges for time-release crates full of snakes to be placed on the plane. Well, of course, the snakes get released and chaos ensues, and many people are killed. And look, man, there are some funny moments. I know everybody here, if you're familiar with flying, you know what the Mile High Club is. We have a couple on this plane who wants to become a member of the Mile High Club. Well, dude ends up in a very bad situation with the snake. I'll just leave it there.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah, we see people getting bitten, getting strangled. I mean, snakes on a plane, loving it. And then, of course, you gave the big quote. Anybody who sees Samuel L. Jackson in the movie, you're waiting for that moment. When are we going to hear him say motherfucker? And finally, at the end of the movie, we get it. Everybody leaves happy. This movie is absolute garbage. I admit it. It's called Snakes on a Plane. You should know that going in. I did, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And it made number 8 on my list. Snakes on a Plane.
I'm going to quote Indiana Jones, which you'll like.
Yeah.
I hate snakes. I really hate them. So I have never even looked at a film clip of that movie. I don't like snakes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I cannot deal with snake move. I barely got through Anaconda. I don't like snakes. So,
Wow.
And when they look real, if they can look a little fake, I can tolerate it a little bit, which is why I was able to deal with Anaconda. But they look a little real in a little bit of the still frames I've seen from that. So I can't get near it. I don't like snakes. I don't like snakes. I can't even watch that Indiana Jones scene anymore. I watched it once and now I don't even look at it because I don't like snakes. I can't even look at them.
That's funny because I don't know if I ever knew that about you. Because this is one, the snakes look real, but I mean, they don't look so real that I think it would bug you. But yeah, if you really do have an aversion to snakes, I probably should stay away from this one.
I can't stand looking at a snake. I just can't do it.
Well, then
so I will never watch that movie. I wouldn't make it through. I wouldn't make it through it. I'd probably piss my pants.
Don't do that.
That's why I'm not going to watch it. My number 8. You mentioned disaster movies. This is a disaster movie, and it is a cheesy disaster movie. Its plot is right there with Day After Tomorrow, right there with 2012, except it deals with a different type of disasters. And that disaster is even its title, Volcano, starring Tommy Lee Jones. This is definitely probably one of those movies Tommy Lee Jones probably puts on the shelf and just says, at least I got paid. Because that's about all it was worth, probably. But again, this is one of those movies. I own this movie, and I was shocked it was on DVD because I know how bad it is. It's unmitigated shit, and the plot is absolutely ridiculous. It's about a volcano that erupts. We've seen tons of those, like Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan, which I actually like that movie as well. That one at least is a little bit more realistic. This one has absolutely no realism in it. It deals with a volcano that erupts in downtown Los Angeles. Out of the blue, just a volcano is in downtown Los Angeles, which is actually somewhat feasible because it's dealing with a caldera, which is a super volcano. For example, there's a super volcano under Yellowstone. So these things actually exist, but this is a minor one. So it's questionable if these exist, but there have been stories of, I can't remember where, but I think it was in Mexico, a farmer just a little tip came up from his garden, and like a month later, there was a full-blown volcano there. So it is possible. It has happened. I just doubt it would happen in downtown LA. But he plays this basically emergency management director, and he meets this seismologist who's played by Anne, which is what I call her, Anne, because I can't stand her name. And at least she's better at talking science than friggin' Denise Richards was in a Bond movie. She's the expert on a lot of this, and it's just dealing with this volcano, and you have this ensemble-like cast, and you have, customary in a disaster movie. You have a scumbag that you can't wait to die. You have children. Of course, you have somebody's daughter who does stupid stuff. That it's so cliche for a disaster movie. But for this one, I just happen to love it. Keith David is in this movie too.
Oh, love Keith David.
He's in this movie. So Spawn is in this movie. It's a terrible, terrible movie, directed by Mick Jackson, a director who I've never heard of before or since. Don't know what he's done since, but probably nothing after this. But it's a guilt. What's the point of a guilty pleasure? You know it's shit, but somehow it just clicks you. I love this movie. I legitimately watched this movie 2 days ago when I finished up this list finally. And I was like, I got to watch Volcano. So Volcano, for whatever reason, number 8 from 1997.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never seen Volcano, but you mentioned Dante's Peak. I did go see that in the theater. I actually enjoyed Dante's Peak. And I do own that one, but haven't seen Volcano, not because I heard it was terrible. Just it's, like I said, one of those movies that just got by me.
I have it anytime you want to borrow it.
Okay, and I may very well do that because I like Tommy Lee Jones. Number 7 is going to be an interesting one for me because this is one I originally saw in the theater and I hated it. I was so disappointed because it was directed by a guy who was one of my favorite directors at the time and is still one of my all-time favorite directors now. And it's from 1986. This is one that over the years, I have revisited it.
I think I know what it is already.
And I have come to enjoy it, even though I still feel like it's a piece of crap. And I'm talking about Big Trouble in Little China.
I knew it. I was waiting for it.
I love John Carpenter. One of my all-time favorite directors. I mean, name the movies. Halloween, okay? Escape from New York, L.A., The Thing, all instant classics. The Fog, I could go on. So this movie was a little bit of a departure from what I had seen John Carpenter do before. Still, I'm like, it's John Carpenter. It's got to be a decent movie. I went into this thing. Kurt Russell's in it, who's been in a couple of John Carpenter films and who I'm a big fan of. And I just left the theater thinking, what the fuck were either of these guys thinking? Kurt Russell plays Jack Burton, a trucker.
One of the greatest characters ever.
Who to me, yeah, constantly was doing a John Wayne impersonation through the whole movie.
A bad John Wayne.
He's friends with a guy played by Dennis Dunn. Google him because I don't know anything else he's been in besides this. His name is Wang Chi. He wins a bet against Wang. And so in order to make sure he pays off the bet, they have to go to the airport. Wang's fiance is coming in on a plane. Well, a Chinese street gang, the Lords of Death, wreak havoc and end up kidnapping Wang Chi's girlfriend. So the whole movie is basically Jack Burton, Kurt Russell, trying to help Wang get his girlfriend back. Kim Cattrall is in this movie. Yeah, she's in this movie. And I want to mention a gentleman's name, James Hong.
Oh, please mention him.
Who plays Lopan. James Hong is an actor. I guarantee anybody listening to this podcast,
you've seen him.
You have seen him in something. This man has appeared in over 600 TV shows, movies.
He's in everything.
Have seen this man is in something. And he's
anytime they need an old Asian, he's the one they call.
Yeah, and he's really an underrated actor, always entertaining, entertaining in the right ways and wrong ways in this one.
Golden Child. He was in the Golden Child. He was hysterical.
Yeah. I mean, this movie has some of the craziest martial arts fights you'll ever see. I mean, people flying through the air. I mean, flying through the air.
Mm-hmm.
It is just completely outrageous. It's comical, sometimes unintentionally comical. It's bad, But over the
Bad.
years, this movie
It's
has
bad.
really grown on me. I enjoy it when I watch it. I just recently ordered the Blu-ray. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I'm going to watch it as soon as I get it. But this movie is bad. It's bad.
It's
But
really bad.
it's a guilty pleasure, and it is number 7 on my list. Big Trouble in Little China.
It is one of the shittiest movies ever made.
It is.
It is so batshit crazy.
Yep.
Which is why it's one of my honorable mentions. I couldn't put it in my countdown, but I love that movie.
Yeah.
It is just insane, that movie. It's a bad acid trip. The worst kind of acid trip you can imagine.
Yeah.
But damn it, it's so funny. It's
really
so
is.
damn funny.
I think when I went to see it. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's sorry. Go ahead.
Quickly, I was just going to say, I think when I first went to see it, I was so disappointed because I was expecting something different. But now over the years, I've watched it and just enjoy it for what it is. Just a goofy little action film. And I like it a lot more now.
I think it's better for that because we got surprised. I think that makes it better. It's nice to go into a movie. You think it's going to be some one direction and it goes completely another direction, which is nice because that doesn't happen. Usually you figure out what's going to happen in about 5 minutes. So it's nice to actually get a surprise now and then.
Right.
But I'm going to mention a couple other honorable mentions because I just mentioned 2. Big Trouble in Little China, The Golden Child. I know it's shit, but I love that damn movie. It is hysterical. And I, Frankenstein, which I did not expect I would like that movie. I bought it before I watched it. And in my earliest days of reviewing, this early days on Facebook, I would do reviews. I did a review for I, Frankenstein. So I love that movie. It's bad. It didn't help certain people's careers any bit, but it sure cracked me up. I have it on Blu-ray, actually.
I've never seen it. Is that with Aaron Eckhart?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was when Aaron was, this was supposed to be kind of his first solo vehicle.
Oh.
That's why he hasn't had much of a career.
Okay.
This was following The Dark Knight. This was his first solo. And I would tell people to watch I, Frankenstein just because he got sick jacked. He is jacked out of his mind. He was on the cover of Men's Fitness because of this movie.
Okay.
He was jacked. I mean, like Hugh Jackman jacked. He's never looked like that since, but he was sickly jacked. Wow, and I'll mention one more honorable mention. Condor Man. It's bad. I know it's bad.
Wow.
I know it's bad. It is really, really bad.
Wow.
That was number 11. That was the 11th movie that I had a hard time getting rid of. Okay. But I did finally in the end, was Condor Man.
Yeah. It's funny you mention Aaron Eckhart. I'll be real quick because there was one that I like of his that most people hate. I own the Blu-ray and it's called Battlefield Los Angeles.
Battlefield Los Angeles.
Yeah, most people hate that, but I actually enjoy that. But I couldn't put it on my list though. Yeah,
it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad, but it's definitely shit.
Oh yeah.
All right, number 7. There's no way to say it, but I'll say it with one word. Dookie.
Oh boy. Now I am surprised you have this on your list because I didn't know you considered this a guilty pleasure. I thought you just really liked this movie.
It is no holds. Oh, please. This is such a guilty pleasure.
Okay.
Come on. This movie is shit. This is a horrible, horrible movie. If you want to hear some definite comedy, here's a plug for 3GW. We reviewed this movie. So definitely listen to who likes it, listen to who doesn't. Obviously, I like it. Does anybody like it with me or does somebody hate it? I think you can guess just by their reaction. You can name one person who didn't like it. But no holds barred. Here's why this is such a guilty pleasure. Not only is this just an absolute mitigated piece of shit, it's mindless, it's brainless. The plot is all over the place. It makes no sense. But it stars Hulk Hogan, who I hate. I hate Hulk Hogan. I don't like him I have never rooted for this guy ever, but I will root for him in this. just because I like this movie. I love this movie. It is, I mean, trying to describe the plot of this is ridiculous, but basically he plays this character called Rip, this wrestler he's in the WWF at the time because there was no WWE. And he's this popular wrestler, and another network wants him to sign on. And the head of that network is played by Kurt Fuller, who stole the movie. If there's a reason for somebody to watch this, it's because of Kurt. Kurt is so hysterical in this movie. He is the best part of this movie. And he doesn't want to sign. And Kurt finds the other guy in the picture over there, right there. Zeus, played by, rest in peace to the late, Tiny Tim Lister. Some people may recognize him as Debo, but for me, he was Zeus. He was Zeus. Just like Eric, I remember you said that. He was Zeus, not Debo. He's Zeus. This movie, some of the things in this movie, I already said one thing in here, the Dookie line. It's kind of hard to describe how bad this movie is. I mean, you have Rip shooting out of a limo like a rocket. How somehow he got propelled, which is horrible. There's no way that would happen. He scares a guy to death, basically, and he shits his pants. You have a bathroom scene. That's all I'll say there. There's a lot of shit jokes in this movie, which tend to be a thing with wrestling movies, it seems, because there's another wrestling movie that had a lot of shit jokes, but I think it had more shit jokes. I should not like this movie. I should hate this movie with every fiber of my being, but it is truly one of the funniest movies I have ever seen. It cracks me up. I'm crying from laughing every time I watch this movie. I own it on Blu-ray. I bought the special edition, which I was shocked it existed. I didn't think this would ever get to Blu-ray, but it did. And I literally pre-ordered this. That's how much I love it. I pre-ordered it to ensure that I got it. No holds barred. What more can I say? It is an unmitigated toilet bowl from 1989 from WWF Films. No holds barred.
Well, I don't want to give too much away because for any listeners, we did review that one, and it's one of our more enjoyable podcasts. So I encourage you to go listen to it, and you'll find out what you already know, but thought about it. You'll get to hear what I thought about it, as well as the real big.
They already know what you thought about it.
Yeah. All right, so we're up to my number 6, and this one was mentioned earlier by you.
Oh.
It's from 1997, directed by Luis Loza, and it stars a young, fine, tender Jennifer Lopez, who is now an older, still tender and still fine Jennifer Lopez, and it's Anaconda. A movie I know is garbage. It also stars Ice Cube, and it stars Academy Award winner Jon Voight playing
one of the worst.
Yeah, one of the worst Paraguayan accents you will ever hear. Jennifer Lopez is part of a research team looking for a lost tribe in the Amazon, and they come across Jon Voight, unbeknownst to them, who is a snake hunter, and he's hunting this gigantic anaconda. But he offers to help them find the tribe, find your way down, in all of this unfamiliar terrain. His whole thing is to find this huge anaconda. Well, of course, they find the anaconda, and the anaconda proceeds to eat, constrict, kill most of the crew. And that's what I paid to see. Is the movie trash? Yes. Is the CGI bad? Oh, hell yes. But does Jennifer Lopez look good in it? Hell yes. And is the movie somehow, for reasons I can't explain, entertaining? Also, hell yes. That's what guilty pleasures are. And this is one of my biggest. It's number 6, Anaconda.
I was able to watch it only because of the bad effects. Because I've already said it. I am truly, truly terrified of snakes. I just cannot even look at them. Wow. Anytime a snake pops up, I have to look away. I can't look at them.
I don't think
I'm
I ever knew
revealing a
that.
little. Yeah, this is how bad my fear is of snakes. When I'm sleeping, in the back of my mind, I always think a snake is going to slip under the door and bite me. So I always keep my legs up. I never let them like go to the side so that they're touching the ground or anything.
Wow.
Because I'm scared to death a snake will just slither and bite my leg. That's how deep I cannot stand snake. You were with me about airplanes, which is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Snakes is 1,000 times worse. I am truly, truly terrified of snakes.
That's funny because one of your favorite wrestlers of all time is Jake the Snake Roberts.
Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah.
I know. That's the only snake I could tolerate is Damien. But
okay.
even with Jake the Snake, the most traumatic event of my life, we're getting off topic, but can't help it. Randy Savage getting chewed by that damn cobra. That is burnt into my retina. I remember watching that as a kid. Truly, truly, that might have been the moment that I got terrified with snakes. Was that? I think that's what started it. I can't remember being afraid of snakes until that happened. I think that's what kicked it. So thank you, Jake. Thank you, Randy. All right. One more thing you forgot about Anaconda that I got to mention. It's the only part of that movie that's worth watching. Jon Voight gets eaten.
Well, I was going to mention that, but I didn't want to say too much. But since you've already
you do it. Go ahead. You do it. You do it.
No, man.
It's your movie. It's your movie.
Well, yeah, he gets eaten by a snake, and the snake regurgitates him, and Jon Voight winks. Yeah, and that's just one of the funniest, hokiest, most unbelievable, ridiculous scenes in the movie. But it's perfect because the whole movie has been all of those things. So yeah, that moment just kind of was the icing on the cake or the cherry on the sundae, however you want to say it.
It's one of the most ridiculous things in cinematic history.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it was the only part that I enjoyed. I cracked up when I saw that. I'm like, well, that made this entire time worth it. This movie sucks. I'll never watch it again. But that was damn funny.
Yeah, Jon Voight was pretty much hilarious through the whole movie. That accent is one of the worst you'll ever see.
It's terrible. It's bad. It's like, I don't know if people saw it, but it's like Robert Downey Jr. bad from Dr. Dolittle. His accent in that movie.
Fortunately, I've never seen that.
Don't.
No, I won't.
Don't.
Yeah.
Don't. It's horrendous. All right. Number 6. No wrestling in this movie, but this is definitely a guilty pleasure. This was supposed to spawn off a franchise, this movie, and it definitely didn't do it. It's from 1985, stars Fred Ward, Remo Williams. The adventure begins. Now, this is based off of a series of books called the Destroyer series. So the books are a little different from the movie, a little different. The characters are somewhat the same, but the books kind of take a little bit of a serious bit of it. This ain't serious at all. This is just mindless ridiculousness. Fred Ward starts this movie. It's not even really Fred, or in a way, it is, just has a fake mustache, but he plays a cop who essentially gets killed like in the first 5-10 minutes of the movie because he's being picked to join this clandestine secret group. But before he can join the group, he needs to be trained. And in the politically correct world we live in now, this would not happen. Joel Grey, a great actor. You've seen him. Trust me, you've seen him. He plays an Asian. And it is probably the most racist, disturbing, most unpolitically, just the most, just outright not right version of an Asian you possibly can. But it was believable on some levels. He was the best white dude to play an Asian I've ever seen. And Wilford Brimley is in this. That's another name. I'm sure people, you've seen him definitely if you watch Cocoon, and you know who he is. This movie is it's just all level of bad. And Joel Grey's character teaches him this weird martial art in which he's able to do magnificent things like dart out of the way of a bullet being shot out of him, walk on water. I mean, just just ridiculousness in this movie. But oh my God, this movie cracks me up. It's so entertaining. It's so fun. And Fred Ward didn't exactly have the greatest of careers. Most people probably don't even know who he is except for Tremors. That might be the only thing people know him for. And he did 2 Tremor movies. But this is truly one of his best movies. This was directed by Guy Hamilton. For some people, that name may sound a little familiar. He directed James Bond movies. He worked on several Bond movies as a second unit director. He worked his way through the Bond movies to become a director. He directed this. I don't think he wants to remember it, but I remember this movie. I finally bought it on DVD recently. I've wanted to own this thing for like 15 years on DVD. And the only reason I didn't is because legitimately the movie cost $70. And I couldn't justify buying this movie for $70. It finally dropped to something reasonable, 40, which was still ridiculous, but I was willing to do that. And I bought it. Now it's like 20, but I'm fine. I got it. Remo Williams, utter shit, but God damn, it's amusing. My number 6.
It's funny. I remember watching that film with some friends of mine, and this is back in the 80s. We were all getting high then, and I saw a lot of movies that I don't remember, and that's one of them. I know that I saw it, but don't ask me to describe it because it's a little fuzzy and I don't really remember, but maybe I need to check that one out.
You can probably skip it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take
you
your
can
word.
you can probably skip it. I don't think you'd like it.
Okay, I'll take your word.
You can watch it though. I own it. If you want to really watch it, go ahead. But I'd just be shocked if you liked it.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I remember that movie came out with some fanfare. Like people thought it was really going to be a big hit, but
it was supposed to be. Look at the title. Yeah. The Adventure Begins. This was supposed to be a franchise. This was a rival to James Bond. All those spoofs about spies and stuff. This was one of them.
Okay.
Didn't work. This had a TV show. This had a TV show.
Wow.
It didn't last. It only had a pilot. It didn't get picked up.
Oh, okay. All right. So much like the movie, the TV show wasn't any good either, apparently.
No, you can watch it on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
I might check it out.
But before you go, I think you knew this was going to happen. I think you know what I'm about to say. The viewers, you know what I'm going to say. Listeners, you know what I'm going to say. This is going long. So guess what we got? We got ourselves a 2-parter. So I'm going to stop it here because it'll help my editing later. So we're going to stop it here. We're going to refuel, maybe go to the bathroom. I have to get another beer. And we're going to finish up with the second half of our favorite guilty pleasures. If you're up for that, Rob.
I'm good.
All right. We're going to catch you back. So please get ready for the next episode. This will be a 2-parter, and I'll catch you here very shortly.